Humans who seek happiness yet grow through pain. Hello everyone. Today, we will explore one of the most fundamental paradoxes of human existence. That question is, why do humans grow through pain while seeking happiness? This question may seem simple, but it contains deep insights into the essence of human existence and the meaning of life. We all want happiness. That is an undeniable fact. But paradoxically, the moments when we truly grow and change often coincide with periods of pain and trials. This is not mere coincidence. Rather, within this contradictory phenomenon lies a deep principle of human existence. Chapter 1. The instinct to pursue happiness and its limitations. Humans instinctively seek happiness. This can be considered a common characteristic among almost all living beings. We feel joy, experience satisfaction, and long for peace. As the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle said, the ultimate purpose of all human actions is eudaimonia, that is, happiness and prosperity. However, an interesting paradox arises here. If happiness is our only goal, why does our brain respond more sensitively to unhappiness and pain? The negativity bias described by psychologists explains how humans tend to react more strongly to and remember negative experiences longer than positive ones. It's as if our brains are designed to pay more attention to unhappiness than happiness. In fact, this phenomenon can be understood from an evolutionary perspective. For our ancestors, being sensitive to danger and pain was an essential mechanism for survival. A primitive human, who was alert to even small sounds, would have a higher probability of survival than one who failed to notice a predator's footprints. Of course, this is just one scientific view, and doesn't fully explain the complexity of human nature. More importantly, is how this negativity bias affects us in modern society. Modern society constantly tells us to pursue happiness. Social media, advertisements, and self-help books all focus on how to become happier. Ironically, this obsession with happiness often leads to greater dissatisfaction and anxiety. In a society where happiness is demanded, people come to view their unhappiness as personal failure. Here we gain our first important insight. A life that pursues only happiness can paradoxically cause greater unhappiness. Like a child chasing a butterfly, the more directly we pursue happiness, the more it tends to elude us. Chapter 2. Pain as an uncomfortable teacher. What about pain then? That emotion we want to avoid, that experience we try to forget by taking medicine and drinking alcohol, might actually be one of the greatest teachers in our lives. Nietzsche said, "That which does not kill me makes me stronger." Of course, taking this statement too literally could lead to dangerous ideas. But the essence of this message is that pain and adversity promote our growth. Pain is like an axe breaking a shell. It shatters the safe bubble we've built, the comfortable illusions we've created, and truth seeps in through the cracks. Pain awakens us from the numbness of daily life and forces us to face our own limitations and real emotions. Let me give an example. Most people don't know how strong they are, how much they can endure, or how deeply they can love during times of peace. But when we lose someone we love, experience a serious illness, or suffer a great failure, we discover our own depth and strength. According to one study, a significant number of cancer survivors report that their illness experience brought positive changes to their lives. This phenomenon, known as post-traumatic growth, shows that severe pain can bring new perspectives, deep gratitude, and strengthened relationships. Of course, a cynical person might ask, then should we all seek out pain? Should we intentionally pursue unhappiness for growth? That is clearly not the case. Pain itself is not the goal, but rather how we pass through pain, and the lessons we learn from it are what matter. We can find such insights in the Bible as well. Romans 5:3-4 states, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." Here, suffering is described not as simple pain, but as a process for growth. Chapter 3. The condition for growth is discomfort. To understand the essence of growth, let's briefly look at the mechanism of physical growth. Think about how muscles grow. Muscles don't grow in comfort. Rather, they grow when they lift weight, overcome resistance, and even experience microdamage. Exercise scientists call this supercompensation. It's the process of muscle fibers tearing and then regenerating stronger and larger. Mental, emotional, and spiritual growth follow similar patterns. Our minds and souls also expand through challenges and trials. Comfort breeds repetition, but pain breeds questions and choices. Why did this happen to me? What can I learn from this experience? How should I live now? These questions naturally arise in the experience of pain. And these questions are the seeds of growth. Interestingly, in psychology, there is a concept called the optimal anxiety zone. This describes the psychological state where learning and growth occur most effectively. Too comfortable, and there's a lack of motivation. Too anxious, and you become paralyzed. But an appropriate level of anxiety and challenge maximizes our potential. Modern society teaches us to avoid discomfort. It is filled with instant gratification, constant entertainment, and countless ways to forget pain. But this culture of avoiding discomfort paradoxically limits our capacity for growth. To add a slightly cynical perspective, modern consumer society excels at commodifying our discomfort. It promises that solutions for every problem can be purchased. Are you sad? Take this pill. Are you lonely? Download this app. Are you looking for meaning? Buy this self-help book. But true growth and change usually cannot be purchased. It happens on the journey through discomfort. Let's think about the story of Jacob in the Bible. He received a blessing only after wrestling with God. And in the process, he even acquired a permanent injury. This story in Genesis 32 symbolically shows that sometimes spiritual growth comes through painful struggle. Chapter 4. Pain refines relationships and beliefs. Another important function of pain is that it refines our relationships and beliefs. When passing through difficult times, we realize who is truly by our side and what we truly rely on. There is a saying, "A friend in need is a friend indeed." This contains a deep truth. During times of success and prosperity, many people gather around us. But those who remain during times of failure and pain are true friends. According to one study, people who experience serious illness or loss often find their social networks shrink, but the remaining relationships develop deeper and more meaningfully. Pain strips away the superficial in our relationships and leaves only the essential. Additionally, pain tests our belief systems. During peaceful times, many beliefs can remain untested. But in pain, we discover what we truly believe and what our values are. For example, many people live in the illusion that they can control everything. But when experiencing great loss or unexpected tragedy, these illusions collapse. And on those ruins, we must build a more realistic and humble view of life. Thinking cynically here, humans tend to attribute success to their own abilities when everything goes well. But when failure and pain arrive, they suddenly start blaming external factors or luck. This cognitive bias shows how vulnerable we are to self-deception. Pain peels away these layers of self-deception and teaches us greater self-awareness and humility. In a religious context, many believers testify that their relationship with God deepens more in pain than in peace. The book of Job is a biblical example that well illustrates this phenomenon. Job wrestled with God in extreme pain and eventually reached a deeper faith and understanding. His confession in Job 42:5, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you," shows the increase in spiritual depth through pain. Chapter 5. Finding meaning in pain. So far, we've examined various aspects of why humans grow through pain while seeking happiness. Now, an important question remains. How should we approach pain? First, we must recognize that pain is not something to avoid, but a teacher to interpret and accept. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and founder of logotherapy, said in his masterpiece, Man's Search for Meaning, "Pain itself has no meaning, but our response to pain does have meaning. Pain in life is inevitable." As the first noble truth of Buddhism states, life is suffering. But our attitude toward an interpretation of pain is something we can choose. Even experiencing the same loss or failure, some interpret it as a destructive catastrophe, while others see it as an opportunity for a new beginning. Adding a slightly cynical perspective, modern culture often emphasizes positive thinking only, encouraging the denial of the reality of pain. Advice like, always think bright, see only the good side, have a positive mindset abounds. However, this approach sometimes simplifies the depth and complexity of pain and makes people suppress their true emotions. True growth begins not by denying or avoiding pain, but by acknowledging it and finding meaning within it. Second, it's important to look at what we're learning rather than what we've lost through pain. Every painful experience has an inherent opportunity for learning. It could be a deeper understanding of oneself, greater empathy for others, or an occasion to readjust life's priorities. For example, conflicts and wounds in interpersonal relationships are painful, but they teach us the importance of setting boundaries, methods of healthy communication, and the power of forgiveness. Professional failure is frustrating, but it teaches us resilience, adaptability, and sometimes the courage to find a new direction. In the Bible, Paul speaks of his thorn in the flesh in 2 Corinthians 12:7-10. This painful condition, though not specifically identified, taught him humility and how to rely on God's grace. Also, the words, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness," show how pain can become a medium for spiritual growth. Finally, a growing person is one who transforms not only happiness, but even pain into meaning. This is not an easy task. It doesn't mean forcibly reinterpreting our pain positively or denying genuine sadness and loss. Rather, it means having the courage to find meaning and purpose even while passing through pain. American poet Robert Frost said, "I have looked through tears." Sometimes, when viewing through the lens of tears, we can see the beauty, complexity, and meaning of life more clearly. Chapter 6. Embracing Paradoxical Truth. Synthesizing our discussion so far, we arrive at this paradoxical truth. While it is human instinct to pursue happiness, true growth and deep satisfaction often come through pain. Accepting this paradox leads to a more mature perspective on life. It is recognizing that happiness and pain are not separate states, but two aspects of the human experience. As philosopher Heidegger said, joy and sorrow arise from the same abyss of being. Here we discover an important wisdom of life. True happiness lies not in the absence of pain, but in the ability to find meaning even in pain. Rather than directly pursuing happiness, we can experience deeper and more lasting satisfaction when we live a meaningful life. From a cynical perspective, the illusion of constant happiness promised by modern society can actually make us unhappier. Images of perfect lives flooding social media, a culture demanding constant positivity, advertisements offering immediate solutions to all problems. These ignore the essential complexity and paradox of life. What we need instead is an attitude of tragic optimism. This concept, proposed by Viktor Frankl, means the ability to find hope and meaning even while acknowledging the tragic aspects of life. This attitude maintains a state of equilibrium that faces reality without succumbing to despair. We can find such paradoxical truths in the Bible as well. Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5:4, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." He also taught in Matthew 10:39, "Whoever loses their life will find it." These teachings all contain paradoxical truths that pain and loss can sometimes lead to deeper blessings and growth. Chapter 7. Practical methods for growing in pain. Beyond theoretical understanding, how can we actually grow in pain? Let's look at some practical approaches. First, it's important to integrate the experience of pain into a meaningful narrative. Psychologists call this meaning making. By writing or talking about painful experiences, we can position them within the larger story of our lives. This is not simply repeating the cliché, everything happens for a reason, but truly exploring our own pain and discovering patterns and meaning within it. Second, sharing pain within a community helps. Pain often isolates us, but paradoxically, it can also be a profound source of human connection. When we share our vulnerabilities with people we trust, we realize we are not alone and can gain collective wisdom and support. Adding a slightly cynical perspective, much of self-help culture overly individualizes pain. It conveys the message, your pain is a problem you must solve. But humans are essentially social beings, and much pain cannot be healed by individual effort alone. Sometimes social support, professional help, and community wisdom are needed. Third, it's important to cultivate a habit of gratitude even in pain. This is not about denying pain or forcing artificial positivity. Rather, it's recognizing the gifts and grace that still exist even in difficult situations. According to research, practicing gratitude helps increase resilience and promote mental well-being. Fourth, it's important to maintain agency through small actions and choices even in pain. Sometimes when everything feels uncontrollable, the simple question, what can I do today, can provide direction and purpose. Even the smallest choice reminds us that we are not completely powerless. Finally, it helps to view pain from a transcendent perspective. Many spiritual traditions teach that pain is not simply misfortune to be avoided, but can be a channel leading to deep spiritual truths and transformation. In the Bible, Job described in Job 42 verse 5, after extreme pain, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." This shows that pain can sometimes open the door to experiencing God more deeply. Chapter 8. Conclusion: Embracing the paradox of pain and growth. As we conclude our journey, let's return to the question we've been exploring. Why do humans grow through pain while seeking happiness? This contradictory phenomenon actually reflects the essential characteristics of human existence. We have the biological instinct to seek comfort and safety, but we are also spiritual beings who crave meaning and growth. The tension between these two desires is at the heart of the paradox we've been exploring. Pain breaks our shells, awakens us from comfortable illusions, and refines our relationships and beliefs. It shows us new, sometimes uncomfortable truths, and helps us discover that we are stronger and deeper beings than we thought. The Bible addresses this complexity and paradox of human experience with remarkable honesty. The psalmist captures both joy and sorrow, praise and lament. Job wrestles with God in extreme pain. Jesus himself experienced pain in the Garden of Gethsemane and achieved salvation through the pain of the cross. James 1:2-4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." This passage shows how trials and pain can make us more complete beings. It's important to understand that God doesn't give us pain, but rather stays with us in inevitable pain and uses it to grow and transform us. As Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Ultimately, a growing person is one who transforms not only happiness, but even pain into meaning. It is not about denying reality or forcing artificial positivity, but having the courage to find meaning and purpose in all experiences. And in this journey, we must remember that we are never alone. God is with us in all our pain, guiding us through it to become deeper, stronger, and more complete beings. In Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." Even in our pain, we can respond to this invitation and find true rest and meaning. Closing remarks. Everyone, today we embarked on a journey with the theme, "Why do humans grow through pain while seeking happiness?" I hope this deep exploration of happiness and pain, growth and meaning, has brought you small insights and comfort in your life. In life's journey, we all experience joy and sorrow, success and failure, peace and pain. I sincerely wish that wisdom and courage to find meaning in all those experiences and transform even pain into opportunities for growth will be with you. Thank you sincerely for staying with me until the end. If this audiobook has been helpful to you, please subscribe to our channel and share it with others. We will continue to bring you more content, exploring deep questions of life. I pray that God's wisdom and peace will be with you on your journey. I'll see you next time. Thank you.